Are you looking for a way to make co-parenting easier? Talking Parents can help you streamline your shared parenting responsibilities and minimize conflict by keeping all interactions organized and documented. With Talking Parents, you can stop worrying about the he said, she said, and focus on what matters most, your children. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store and start a 30-day free trial today. We're back again with a brilliant episode. Today we're talking about how pre-divorce guidance reduces risks and empowers smarter decisions when going through a divorce. And today with me is Andrea Vacca, a longtime friend and colleague of mine. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Karen.
I'm so excited about today's conversation. I've coached hundreds of people through that mend or end decision. And there is understandably so much resistance because both the decision and the subsequent transition of divorce is overwhelming at best, which is why I'm so excited about today's episode and this program, this package that we're sharing with you. It's actually an ideal bridge from decision to action. And Andrea's going to explain what this pre-divorce guidance package is, and we're going to get into all of the details in a minute. Andrea and I met when I first got into divorce coaching. So I think about 14 years ago. She's a very good friend of mine. Andrea is a mediator and collaborative attorney with over 30 years experience, and she brings more heart and compassion to the table than any other attorney that I work with, which is why when she told me about this package and asked if Journey Beyond Divorce would partner with her, it was hands down one of the most exciting conversations I had. So, Andrea, welcome.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you for that introduction, too. And we have known each other for so long now, and we've worked together and presented together, and we've grown into these businesses that we have in our careers together in different ways. But it's so nice to be back together. So,
yes.
yeah.
And before we dive in, I have a question for you. I love to share something unique about each guest that has nothing to do with the work that they do. So I've had people who have swum with sharks and did crazy things. What is something that you could share with our listeners that's unique about you?
I wasn't prepared for this question. Unique about me, I think that comes to mind is once I was robbed in the Copenhagen train station, and I chased down the person who stole my bag, and I found her and I chased her down, and I ripped her coat off and took my camera, and it was crazy, and I held on to it throughout the whole train station, and I never got my passport back in my wallet, but I got my camera, and I like adrenaline took over, and I attacked my attacker. So that's like a weird, I know it's a strange thing, but it's
Actually, that's a little bit surprising for me
I
too.
know. I know.
So not your personality. Yeah, you go, girl.
I did. Yep. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so you don't want to be pickpocketing or jumping Andrea because
Nope.
she may be a small woman, but she's going after you. So let's dive into when you first came to me and talked about, we were chatting about the difficulty of making the decision and then that seesaw. I've made it, I haven't made it, I've made it, I'm taking a break, I've made it, and I'm not really, I'm afraid. That's what I think you and I began with, is this I'm ready, I'm not ready, understandable resistance and pause. So how is it that you came up with the pre-divorce guidance, and can you give us some of the details of it?
Sure. Typically, when people would call, they're calling a divorce attorney because they want a divorce, and they're pretty clear that they want the divorce. But a lot of times they think they are, but then when you start working with them or start talking about them with them, how we could help, they weren't sure yet. I need to think about it. How will I tell my spouse? I'm actually really scared. And so we created a few years ago this pre-divorce guidance service. And we realized it would be, you mentioned the bridge that we're going to have, but this was also a bridge from I really want to end this marriage, to I don't know how I can do that. I don't know how yet. I don't know how it will work, how I will tell my spouse, what will life look like? What am I getting myself into? I know I don't want to be married anymore, but there were so many unknowns and it was just stopping people. But with the pre-divorce guidance, we realized we could help prepare them with an attorney for everything that was going to come ahead. We weren't representing them. There was no divorce action starting or anything like that, but it was giving them time to prepare for telling their spouse, figuring out what financials might look like, getting their head around the whole issue, dealing with all their concerns and fears, and putting them in touch with the right professionals that could help them clarify their current situation or what the future could look like, work with their current advisors to get the information that they didn't know how to get, such as like financial information. So it was really helpful. And then within, it could be 2 weeks or it could be a few months, they typically would be ready to say, okay, I'm ready now to tell my spouse, pick a process. We only mediate, collaborate, negotiate. We don't litigate. So all these people already knew they didn't want to litigate. And we would help them land on a process, help them talk to their spouse about it, and they would move into the divorce process. And it worked really well. However, there were some people who would come to us for pre-divorce guidance. We would do all the things we did with other clients, but then they wouldn't return our calls. Mm-hmm. Or they would say they'd get back and do things and they never got to it. Or they would be ready to have that talk with their spouse and then they wouldn't have the talk. So I realized these people are calling the lawyers like you go up to that fence. Like there's this line, the fence. Okay, I'm going to call the lawyer. I want a divorce. Then they would retain us for the pre-divorce guidance and jump over that fence. But some of those people were still holding on to the fence.
Yeah.
I don't want to really go there. I'm not ready. And we would do everything we were doing with other people, but I realized it was just an emotional block. They were just not emotionally ready. And I'm not a coach. I'm not a therapist. And so I was referring them to coaches. I referred some of these people to you. And then I thought, well, what if sometimes they wouldn't call the coach though. So they wouldn't make that call. So that's why when you and I were talking, I thought, wait, what if it was guaranteed you would have the call? It would be part of the package. You don't have to there's no barrier to entry. This is part of what we do now. Right. And to bring you in, Karen, and so this is how we developed it, what the clarity call would do as part of the pre-divorce guidance. I know we're going to talk more about that now, but that's how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. So let's start with some of those key things, because I think I love the concept of being able to have more time with an attorney without that big retainer. Like, I think the retainer is a big thing, and it's not always a matter of I can or can't afford it. It's just like it's a big commitment, right? And so I love the fact that you've got this smaller financial commitment where they get to have an attorney come alongside them and explain this world, this foreign world that they don't know anything about, that's really scary. And most people, what they do know are horror stories that they've heard from other people. Like, people don't walk around saying, oh my God, I had this lovely divorce and this terrific thing happened. Like, that's not the stories that they hear. So can you, if you were to give a little bit more detail, so if somebody's interested in a pre-divorce package, does it last a certain amount of months? Does it go through certain specific steps? How does that work?
It depends on where the client is. It's very tailored to their situation. Sometimes the client has come to us and they've already told their spouse they want the divorce, but maybe it was a year ago and no one has done anything. Or maybe they've said it for every month for the last 10 years, but have never really done anything about it. Or they have been thinking about it for 2 years and their spouse has no idea. He or she should know, but it hasn't been said. So they could be at any stage. They could have different financial wherewithal and knowledge. So we really find out where their problems are, where their pain points are, what is not working for them, where do they want to be, but they're not right now. So everyone's different. But what we'll do is try to strategically plan with them for what those next steps are to get them where they say they want to be. And so it could be, it's going to be very tailored to what their circumstances are, but maybe it's figuring out what the goal is, selecting a process, like they don't know if they should mediate or collaborate. Well, we'll talk to them and figure out, tell us about your relationship with your spouse. How do you problem solve? How do you communicate? What's the power imbalance between you, and in what way is there a power imbalance? Everyone has some power imbalance in a relationship, and sometimes it's fine. Sometimes it's so extreme.
Right.
Mediation will not be a good choice. What is their knowledge of their financial situation? Do they need help with that? Do they know where to get information? So it's really very, very tailored to what they need. So there's no, like I said, sometimes it's 2 weeks later and they're ready. They just couldn't commit to hiring a divorce attorney yet. But within 2 weeks of talking to us, 3 weeks, they're ready. They feel more stable. They have like a platform that they can stand on and say, okay, I'm really doing this now. And they just feel a little more secure.
Yeah. So it's not only pre-divorce guidance, but it's completely customized.
Oh, yeah.
And can you, like you're saying, a couple of weeks. So if somebody purchases the package, do they immediately go into a number of phone calls? How does that piece of it work?
Yeah. And it's not always a couple of weeks. I want to clarify. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's months.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a few months. So yeah. So the first step is we will have once you retain us, we'll sit down for a good hour, have a Zoom call, or you come into the office, and we will really talk about where you are and where you would like to be, why you're not getting where you need to get. We've already at this point given them the link to your calendar so they can get right onto that clarity call. So sometimes they may have had the call, sometimes they haven't yet. If they have, we might find out what came up during the call, so we can really understand where the issues may lie. If they haven't had the call, we might prepare them for the call. Like, these are things I think you should be talking to Karen about. I can see it's going to be very difficult emotionally or communication wise to get through this one thing. So this is where Karen can really help. So we'll get clear on the issues, emotional issues, financial issues, talk about some of the legal issues that they need to be aware of, and take it from there. Again, do they have to get financial information for us? Can we help them do that? To what extent can we help? Do they need to speak to someone else? And so the next meetings will depend on what they needed to do to have a more productive next meeting.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I'm going to jump in and talk about the clarity call for a minute,
Yes.
because I think it's good timing. And I've had so many varying conversations, right? And so people can get stuck, as you said, on so many different fronts. Certainly, if there's a big power imbalance, then even the conversation with your spouse that you've made the decision can be really scary. Oftentimes, what I've found is the story in your head is so much scarier than what's actually going to happen. I had one client, I think I worked with her for 18 months before she finally told. And it was the most anticlimactic thing. She was like, he turned to me and he goes, "Good point. I'll get an attorney." Like, it was such a non-event. She was so mad at herself. And we had spent so much time. Now, she took a long time coaching, but in that one clarity call, what we're able to do is poke around at, it might be just a fear of everything that they don't know, right? Which is great, because then I can go back to Andrea and say, here are the key points that they seem really in need of to be able to move forward. So often we don't realize what's keeping us stuck. And that's where helping a client get clear on what their priorities are. And so often you're thinking about what you want to leave, that there's not a lot of thought about where you're going. And so even inviting in that, what would a successful divorce look like? What are you hoping for on the other side? And it's almost like shifting their perspective out of the rear view mirror into that big front windshield. And it's like, well, I've only been thinking about all of the nightmares. You're asking me to think about positive fantasies of what I want, positive plans of what I want. And so when we spend an hour helping them uproot limiting beliefs, helping them poke at stories that aren't true just between their ears. It's getting bigger and bigger as a scary thing. And then helping them get clear on, what do I need to know? And do I know where I want to go? Those typically, that conversation diminishes so much of the anxiety and the murkiness, right? So people say that they're uncertain, but they're typically afraid. And when they can unveil the afraid, it becomes more about being uncertain. Then the uncertainty melts away because it's like, oh, okay, now I understand.
Yeah, it just shining a light on those scary parts and bringing it out and seeing what they don't know. It's the unknown. What do they say? The pain was easier than the pain you don't know, or the something. I don't know how you say that, but they know they're in pain. They know they're in an unhappy marriage, but all those unknowns are just so scary. So the emotional component of that you can help them with, it will allow them to look at the finances in a different way. Think about negotiating. Think about what their end goal could look like financially. What do they want? Do they really want to live in their home?
Right.
Or is there some emotional attachment to the home that would, and then we can, on my side, say, is it going to be financially feasible and for you to stay in this home? You know, is this what your long-term financial plan will benefit from, or is it an emotional decision? And if you decide to make an emotional decision, fine, as long as you know you're making it based on emotion. And that's why working with you and in this process is just going to be so helpful.
Yeah. And so when someone emerges from this pre-divorce guidance segment, they're ready to step in. And it sounds like they have more information, more clarity than the average person.
They will. They will. We find these clients have less stress and uncertainty. They're better able to make decisions that are going to be coming up because we've started to make some decisions and they understand why they need to make the decisions. We're preparing them for this. They're typically able to communicate their concerns, their feelings, their desires in a better way because we've been coaching with them and talking with them and thinking it through as to why they think mediation is the best process or why they think it is not and they should do collaborative or whatever the issue is. They're just more certain. And so they will be coming across in a different way. And they're going to be, and it can change the reaction from their spouse because they can see something's different.
Yeah, and I would imagine the energy they're coming with, right? So our goal is to have them coming with confident energy, with clear, assertive energy, as opposed to that wishy-washy maybe where you can feel like a doormat because you're acting like one, and we don't want that. You've been doing this for a couple of years. Could we get one or two stories, scenarios of how maybe a quick one when someone was ready quickly and then someone who might have taken a little bit longer with different issues? Your kids may not be the only ones taking tests this year. SoberLink is the #1 alcohol monitoring device on the market for parents who need to prove their sobriety. Here's how it works. Your co-parent will test at scheduled times each day. Built-in facial recognition confirms their identity. Tamper sensors flag any attempts to cheat. And results get sent instantly to your phone. So you know your kids are with a sober parent, whether it's during school nights or weekends away. Set your family up for success this school year. Visit soberlink.com/JBD to learn more and get $50 off your device. Are you looking for a way to make co-parenting easier? Talking Parents can help you streamline your shared parenting responsibilities and minimize conflict by keeping all interactions organized and documented. With Talking Parents, you can stop worrying about the he said, she said, and focus on what matters most, your children. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store and start a 30-day free trial today. Divorce feels like an overwhelming perfect storm as you navigate pain, fear, and confusion while struggling with unfamiliar legal procedures and the pressure to make complex decisions that will impact the rest of your life. Our free Rapid Relief Call provides the clarity and confidence you're yearning for. Visit rapidreliefcall.com for support and guidance today.
Yeah, a quick one that comes to mind is a client who was in mm, 10-year marriage. They got married when they were older, and she had given up a lot of she'd given up her business and her career to relocate with her spouse, her future husband. So she left a lot behind to move to New York so he could build his life and career. They didn't have a prenuptial agreement, and she was really scared. Do I really want to end this marriage? Because I gave up everything, and we have a nice life, but I don't love him anymore. So she retained us for the pre-divorce guidance, and it allowed us to talk about what the law says, what she might be entitled to. We explored like what would happen if you moved back to where you came from where you originally were. And that was a very short one. Within 2 or 3 weeks, she was very ready. She enlisted the help of some siblings to support her, because one was very financially savvy, one was emotionally supportive, and she told her husband that she wanted the divorce, and it was like a lead balloon. You're like, oh, okay. He didn't push back, he didn't fight, he didn't try to hurt her in any way. And we quickly moved to the collaborative process. That was a quick one that comes to mind. And in the end, we went pretty quickly. Of course, it felt like forever for her, but when I look back, it was like within, I don't know, 5 to 6 months, we were like done, and she was moved,
Wow.
Yeah.
But those early pieces, the information is what she needed to have like a wide open door. Is that what it was?
That's what it was. She needed to know what life might look like on the other side, what the negotiations might look like, what her strengths were, where the weaknesses were in her case, in her situation.
Yeah.
We'll be very honest. We're not going to pretend you're going to get everything you want. Like you're probably going to have to give up some things because you want this done quickly. So let's see what your priorities are. So kind of a reality check. And sometimes people just need that. Longer ones, well, there are some people who retained me a year and a half ago for pre-divorce guidance, and I'm not quite ready still to do it because there's so much emotional baggage and so much pain and so much fear about what will happen when. And so I just had a call with a certain client recently. I said, please call Karen again. They've already worked with you. They need more. They need to work with you more to get ready. And they promised me they would be calling. So you may be hearing from somebody, but and I understand it's a very difficult relationship.
Yeah. And I'll share. So I started therapy, and it was probably 2 years after that. And we had done some marriage counseling when I actually went to an attorney, and I hired the attorney right before Thanksgiving. And I got such powerful pushback, begging, pleading, that I put the whole thing on pause. And we went into one of these 3-day weekend divorce recovery programs. And then there was a program that followed. And then we tried a little bit more marriage counseling. And from the time I hired my attorney until I called him and said, do not let me put this on pause again. It was July. It was right after the July 4th weekend. And so I know so well my own fear, the pushback from my spouse, like, you have to try, give this another try. We brought kids into the world. So there's that. There is all of the chaos of how do we financially do this? How do we logistically do this? And so for me, it makes so much sense that between that first, should I mend or should I end, that so much happens before you're 2 feet in with the retainer. And for the listener, I want you to just imagine that between making that decision, if that's you, imagine having a skilled, compassionate attorney and a skilled coach that are coming alongside you in supporting you to work through all of those understandable big fears and questions, so that when you're stepping into the divorce, when you're actually saying, I'm ready, here's the retainer, let's get started, you have a clarity and confidence that you can't possibly begin with. Like, how would that change your experience? And that's what I think is so unique about what you're offering.
It seems like, why didn't I think of this sooner? But when you keep seeing the same problems over and over, you say, okay, this could be a solution. And we found it's really helping the clients to, and we haven't even talked about children. It's a lot about the client, a lot is the focus, but also it's helping them to think about their kids, because it's so often they're worried about their children. They don't want to mess them up. They stay longer than they should because of a milestone that's coming up in the children's lives. But sometimes we have to remind them that if you're in a very high conflict marriage, it's not serving your children.
Yeah.
And if there's slamming doors or silent treatment, or yelling at each other or whatever it may be, they know what's going on. You're not hiding anything from them. So getting clear on that for them is really important too. Is this best for your children? How are you being in your home? Are they really safe emotionally?
Yeah.
And preparing them for that spouse's resistance, like yours was. I don't believe in divorce. All the things they've been saying throughout the marriage, what will they say? How will you react? What else can you say that's different than what you said before? Or maybe you don't say anything, so I don't care. I'm not listening to this anymore.
And I think like one of the big things I noticed is a lot of people, especially if there is a power imbalance, they go in thinking, I have to have a conversation or negotiation about wanting to leave, as opposed to, I need to present a statement that I've made a decision. And if I tell you how many times that slippery slope has caused months and years, because for me, I wanted him to understand and I wanted his permission. Well, my therapist at the time said, you will spend the rest of your life in this marriage then, because you're not going to get either of those two things. And so in that beginning, when you can help somebody, even in that piece, like, how do I tell my spouse, not engage in a dialogue where there's a push and pull about the decision. No, the conversation is that the decision has been made, right? So explaining to them how that's a really brief and effective decision. And the other thing that comes to mind, and Andrea, is what happens when you step into divorce where you're clear and your fear has been diminished? You're a better parent at home. You're a better partner with your attorney. You're able to think clearly and make decisions that are best for the whole family. When you're coming from overwhelm and fear, that's just about impossible to do.
Right. That decision has been made mindset changes everything. And you don't need their permission. You're, like you said, you're never going to get it. And you will just be clear, the clarity call. We don't call it that for nothing, right? It's exactly what you're getting. Clarity about why you're doing this, how to make it clear to others, to yourself first, and get clear on all your next steps. And that that you will be a better client for your lawyer. You will be a better parent. You will be a better sister-in-law, or whatever else it is, because like, it's done. You're now on the other side.
Yeah.
You're not in the muck anymore. You've taken yourself to another place, and you're starting to take some steps forward. And that alone can feel so freeing. You're still tied down. You're still married. You still have a lot to do. Journey's not over, but you've taken a step forward, and it feels different.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, when you feel like you're ready to make a decision to end, to then go into this kind of pre-package, right? This pre-guidance really gives you, again, I'm going to use the word bridge. It's like there's such a discouragement when I know I want to leave, but I can't. So now I get to beat myself up because I can't, because I'm afraid, because of this, because of that. And that step of, I know I want to leave, and all I need to decide to do is to partner in this pre-guidance to help me over the burning stones, the rapids that, like, the bridge that gets me over the rapids that are going to scare the heck out of me. you're immediately in partnership. So part of leaving your life partner and immediately being in partnership with an attorney with a little bit coaching support feels like such a kind and gentle transition into divorce.
It is. It is a safer way to do it. Like that partnership idea. I love that. We're by your side. We are by your side. And we don't have to do anything. It's really, what do you need?
Right.
We will be there for what you need. We can move as fast or slow, which understand it's going to be your decision, right? We're not going to we'll nudge a little. Maybe we'll have to pull back a little bit. It's really your speed.
Yeah.
And that could be for better or worse, but we're there for you. And some of the faster ones or longer ones, but that have good outcomes is I just thought of another client that she came to us for pre-divorce guidance and then decided, okay, I'm not gonna move forward. I'm gonna try to reconcile. I think she came to us first in like April, something like that, and spent the next 6 months or so trying to work on the relationship with a narcissistic spouse. It was pretty bad. So all we could do is say, okay, we'll refund. You didn't use all the time or money, so we're going to give this back to you. Good luck. We wish you the best. 6 months later, she came back and she said, okay, I'm ready to move forward, but I want to do the pre-divorce guidance again because I haven't told my spouse yet. And in the end, very quickly after that was ready, and we moved into the collaborative process. It was very high conflict matter. They were tough. Divorcing a narcissist is going to be hard, right? No matter what process. But we had that relationship back from the spring. We reestablished it in the fall, and she was very quickly able to move forward into that divorce. So that was another one I wanted to mention that was fast. It took a longer time, but the outcome was really good.
And Andrea, I think it would be really helpful. As you know, so many of my listeners are in more of the high conflict space. So can you talk, before I have you tell people how they can find you and engage in this program, can you just share your experience helping people collaborate through high conflict? Because it can happen, and with the right skilled people. And so I want our listeners to know this is very much a possibility for them.
It's absolutely a possibility. Collaborative divorce is the perfect process for a high conflict couple who don't want judges to make decisions for them.
Okay.
That's it. If you want to be able to make your own decisions, but you haven't been able to do that well, at least try to get the right team around you. You know, in a collaborative divorce, as Karen, you're going to each have your own attorney who's collaboratively trained. It's a special training. We don't just settle our cases. We're really trained on how to work together. We're agreeing not to litigate with you. We're all invested in helping you come to an agreement that works for both of you. It has to work for your spouse. It has to work for you. It has to work or you're not signing anything, right? So no one's going to be forced to sign or under duress. It has to be good enough for both of you to say yes to it. But it's not a process that's just two lawyers who are arguing with each other. There's a financial professional on the team. There's a mental health professional on the team. The mental health professional is somebody who's helping you deal with the parenting issues. You don't need two lawyers usually to figure out your parenting schedule. You usually don't. Even the high conflict cases, usually the lawyers are not involved in that part of it because it's in the best interest of the children and very logistical conversations, not legal. Right. So a lower cost, you can have the mental health professional helping with communication issues, emotional issues, parenting issues. The financial professional at a lower cost than lawyers will help with the budgeting, with the long-term planning, with the division of assets in a tax-effective way. You don't need lawyers generally to do that, but the lawyers are there by your side to advocate for you in a non-adversarial way. So we're not making it worse. You're already angry enough at each other. There's already resentment and anger and fear and yelling and frustration, and you want to pull your hair out. We're not going to make it worse in the collaborative process, which unfortunately, the more traditional litigation model, it does make it worse because the lawyers just take a side and are fighting with each other, and you're just along for the ride now. And you're like, it's worse than you've ever imagined. We want to cool the flames and help move you forward. So usually our collaborative cases are all high conflict, because otherwise you'd be in mediation. So I hope that explained it.
And the collaborative process is such a great alternative because there are a lot of people who can't mediate because of the power imbalance, but your attorney is not intimidated. Your attorney is able to, they know the law, they're able to keep a clear head. And it's such a great opportunity if your spouse is open to that. So I wanted that to be really clear. Andrea's in Manhattan, so can you tell people where you're located and how they could learn more or dive into the pre-divorce guidance package?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Yeah, so we're in New York, offices in Manhattan. We work all over New York State, though, and some New Jersey work as well. And we are at the website is vaccalaw.com. And there you can find out more about pre-divorce guidance, all our services. You can get our ebook, Divorce Without Court, a more peaceful solution, where we really explain more about mediation and collaborative divorce. And we have lots of videos and lots of blogs and lots of content that can help we've been doing this for a long time now. So there's any issue you have, I probably have blogged about it or done a video on it or both. So yeah, we've got some good stuff there, including how to tell your spouse you want a divorce. That's a pretty popular blog that people keep downloading. So
Yeah, and you'll find those links in the show notes as well. And so if you're in the New York area, if you're on the should I mend or should I end fence, but you know that you're heading toward ending, I would really encourage you to reach out to Andrea, ask about the package, and see if it isn't the perfect next step for you to step into this with a little bit more ease, support, and emerge into your divorce with a lot more confidence.
yeah, and thank you, Karen. And if this is the right package or next step for somebody, they're going to get to work directly with you and have that clarity call with you, not with the other coaches in your firm, like you've agreed or in your
Yep.
coaching company.
I am your person for those
Love that. I'm so
calls.
lucky.
Only me and only me. And I'm really excited about supporting those of you who dive in and do this. And Andrea, I love this package. I'm so glad to have you on sharing about it. And I'm really excited about the families we're going to be supporting and helping in this really gentle way into and beyond divorce. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Check out the show notes. Check out Vacca Law. It's in the show notes, and we'll be back again real soon with another episode. You take care. Thanks for joining us on the Journey Beyond Divorce podcast. I hope you found guidance and encouragement to help you along your journey. If you like my podcast, please take a minute to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. You can also visit us at jbddivorcesupport.com, where our team of coaches support both men and women through our one-on-one coaching, group programs, online courses, and free resources. Stay tuned for our next episode, and I'll talk to you soon.